The sun wasn't up yet, just a soft glow, slipping through the edge of the curtains. And in the quiet of the bedroom, my mom was already sitting up in bed just like she did every morning. But she didn't stretch, she didn't smile, she didn't rise with the energy of someone refreshed. She just sat there, slowly, carefully, one hand behind her neck, rubbing in small familiar circles. The other gripped the edge of the bed for balance. Her head tilted gently to one side like it had forgotten how to sit straight, like her neck no longer knew its way back to center. I stood at the door, watching. No fall, no accident, no strain the day before. And yet, every single morning she woke like this, like her spine had spent the night bracing for something instead of resting. She never said a word about it, just let out a breath, winced slightly, and began her day with a crooked tilt, like it was simply part of life now. For the longest time, I thought that's just what happens when we get older. Until one day, I looked at her pillow. It was flat, sunken deep in the center, no shape, no support, just there. And suddenly, it made sense. Could it be that all night long her head was resting in the wrong position? And if so, what if the fix wasn't complicated? What if all it took was one small change before bed tonight? My mom always said she liked to sleep with her head tilted to the left. It just feels more comfortable, she'd tell me. I breathe easier that way, and over time, I noticed her pillow begin to dip, just a little but always on that same side. The fabric grew thin, the shape uneven, one side lower than the other like it had memorized the weight of her head. But comfort doesn't always mean safety. At first, it didn't seem serious. She'd wake up, rub the back of her neck, and smile. "I guess it's just old age," she'd say. "My neck's a little stiff this morning," and I believed her, because what else could it be? Until one afternoon, I passed by her room. She was napping peacefully, but when I looked closer, I saw it. Her head was tilted sharply to the left, that same side, resting deep in the sunken part of the pillow. Her neck wasn't in line with her spine. It leaned bent gently like a young tree held too long in the wind. And suddenly, I felt it in my chest. She sleeps like this every single night. No one's guiding her head back to center. No one's cradling her neck once she's fallen asleep. She lays still for 6, maybe 7 hours. Her spine slowly pulled out of alignment, not from trauma, not from injury, but from habit. I started reading articles, journals, notes from neurologists and spinal experts. And then I found one line I'll never forget. When the head remains misaligned for 5 to 7 hours during sleep, the muscles in the neck must work overtime to maintain balance. Over time, this leads to chronic muscle tension, inflammation of soft tissue around the vertebrae, and eventually minor cervical misalignment. This is a common cause of dull, lingering morning neck pain in seniors. I read that quote again and again because it explained everything. Her neck pain wasn't from old age. It was her pillow, too flat, too soft, too sunken on one side. It was her head tilted every night without support. And it was her spine carrying that quiet imbalance, alone. No one had noticed, not even her, because what seemed like just a little stiffness was actually something bigger in the making. A slow shift, a silent strain, building night after night. It was the same every night, the soft light in the hallway, the quiet house settling into sleep. And just before she turned in herself, the daughter would pass by her mother's bedroom. There in the dimness, she'd see a familiar shape. Her mother curled gently to the left, head tilted too far, neck bent just enough to notice, left shoulder slightly hunched, and a pillow thin and uneven sagging quietly under one cheek. It looked peaceful, but something always felt off. One evening, she stood by the doorway a little longer, then asked almost in a whisper, "Mom, what if we add something on your right side, just to balance things out a little?" Her mother didn't open her eyes. She just smiled gently. "I'm used to this," she said. "Too much padding makes it feel crowded." So the daughter said no more, but each morning she watched the same slow ritual repeat itself. Her mother rubbing her neck, tilting her head with care, taking deep, careful breaths before standing. No complaints, just a quiet endurance, like someone who's learned to live around the pain. That night, when her mother had drifted off to sleep, the daughter slipped into the room. She moved gently, barefoot, breath held. She took a small pillow no larger than her hand and placed it just along her mother's right shoulder. Not to prop her up, not to press, just enough to keep her head from tilting too far. Enough to stop her neck from folding into itself. The next morning, her mother sat up slowly, but this time she didn't reach for her neck. She didn't wince. She turned her head, just slightly, and said almost surprised, "My neck doesn't hurt today. I slept better, I think." The daughter smiled. "Maybe you shifted a little," she said, and that was that. No long explanation, no discussion, just a knowing glance between two people who had always spoken best through small actions. The next night, the daughter did one more thing. She folded a soft towel and laid it on the left side, the opposite side, so that no matter which way her mother turned her head, would stay centered, wouldn't tip too far, wouldn't strain. There was no dramatic reveal, no aha moment, just the quiet stacking of care, one layer at a time. 2 weeks passed. The stiffness didn't come back. Her mother no longer lingered in bed each morning, no longer rubbed her neck like it was part of waking up. And then one evening, without asking, without prompting, her mother walked to the linen cabinet, picked out a flat pillow, and said softly, "I'd like to put one on both sides tonight. Feels like my head is being held, not pulled, not tilted, just gently held in place." The daughter stood there for a moment, then nodded. It wasn't about the pillow. It never really was. It was about her mother. Someone who had grown used to managing pain instead of easing it, now letting herself feel supported, letting herself sleep, without tension, without fear, without that quiet bracing for discomfort that had followed her for years. Same bed, same sheets, same old favorite pillow. But now 2 soft companions on either side, a cradle made not of memory foam or fancy designs, but of attention, of presence, of love. And most nights now, she sleeps through without shifting, because her neck is no longer working through the night. It's simply resting, and for the daughter, that's the real change. Not in the bedding, but in the way her mother finally let her head be held, and her body finally let go. Most people don't realize it, but even a small tilt in your head while sleeping just a few centimeters can make your neck muscles work all night long. You may not feel it right away, but your body remembers. And the morning tells the truth, that stiffness, that dull ache, that slow, careful turn of the head you have to make. At my age, I don't want to start the day carrying pain from the night before. I started noticing it more and more. Every morning, my head felt like it had been leaning to one side all night. My neck was always sore, and for the longest time, I just thought that's just part of getting older. Until one morning, I looked at my pillow and quietly wondered, what if this isn't just age? What if it's how I've been sleeping? That day, I decided to try something simple, 3 little changes that made all the difference. First, I changed my pillow. I picked one with the right height, about 3 to 4 inches. Not too soft, not too firm, just enough to gently support the curve of my neck. I chose one with a small dip in the center, the kind that cradles your neck instead of pushing your head too high or letting it sink too low. Second, since I usually sleep on my back, I placed 2 small pillows on each side of my head. Nothing bulky, just enough to stop me from turning my head too far in my sleep. I hadn't realized how much I tilted my head at night until I stopped doing it and started waking up without that tight feeling in my neck. Third, on nights when I slept on my side, I added a small pillow just under my neck, not under my head. I used to think a head pillow was enough, but my neck would still twist to find balance. That tiny bit of support underneath made a big difference. I didn't make all these changes at once. I did them one by one and just listened to how my body responded. And within a few days, I was sleeping better, deeper. No more waking up halfway through the night because of tension. And in the mornings, I didn't have to sit there, stretching and waiting for my neck to loosen up. It already felt light. One morning, as I was folding my blanket, I smiled to myself and thought all it took was one good pillow. And now my neck can finally relax. I came across this from a physical therapy guide. When the neck stays aligned through the night, it can reduce chronic neck pain by up to 70% in people over 65. It allows muscles to truly rest and improves blood flow to the brain so you wake up clear-headed and refreshed. I didn't need fancy tools, didn't need to buy anything expensive. Just a better pillow, a little awareness of how I sleep, and a bit of patience. That's all it took to turn my mornings from stiff and sore into something soft, peaceful, and light. Because when your neck finally stops working overnight, your whole body can finally just rest. That morning, I woke up a little earlier than my mom. The house was still. No quiet groans from down the hall, no rustling sheets, no sounds of shifting in bed. I walked toward her room and stopped at the door. She was sitting on the edge of the mattress just like she always does. But something was different. She wasn't holding her neck. She wasn't hunched forward. She slowly turned her head to the left, then to the right, carefully but without flinching. Her hand reached behind her neck, not to rub it, not to ease the pain, but simply to rest there for a second, before it gently dropped back to her lap. Her body looked at peace, like it had finally returned to a place it hadn't known in a long time. Then, as always, she walked out to the porch to pour herself a cup of tea. Steam curled into the morning air. The sunlight caught the edges of her face, and softly, almost to herself, she said, "Last night, I slept so soundly, I didn't respond right away. Just stood there quietly smiling, watching her in the golden light of morning. There was no tilt in her neck, no slow, careful steps, no sigh as she sat, just calm, stillness, ease. And that's when it really hit me. Maybe it was just one pillow, placed in the right spot, that finally gave her neck the rest it had been needing for years. We always think we need big fixes, a new mattress, special equipment, more medication, but sometimes all it takes is a single soft pillow, tucked in gently, right where the body needs support, and suddenly the pain that's been showing up every morning doesn't. It's never about doing something dramatic. It's about noticing, caring enough to try something small, and being patient enough to see it through. That pillow. It wasn't expensive. It wasn't special, but it was thoughtful, placed with love, and that made all the difference. A quiet invitation for tonight. If your parent or someone you love sleeps with their head tilted to one side each night and always wakes up rubbing their neck or shoulders, try placing a soft pillow on either side of their head. It doesn't have to be thick, just enough to keep their head centered, supported. You don't even need to say anything. Just do it quietly. Let their body speak in the morning, because sometimes one small change can bring a night without tension and a morning that begins in peace. And if this story reminded you of someone you care about or made you think of your own mornings, feel free to hit subscribe. Every week, I share one small story about sleep, about pillows, and about the quiet little shifts that bring real comfort to the people we love. Because healing doesn't always make a sound. Sometimes it just shows up quietly in the way someone turns their head without pain. And you know right then, something changed.